Hmm. Okay. So I started explaining you what we can do with the profiles, and then we might have seen certain examples as well. I think what I did was like I changed the profile of development user a little bit, and then as an impact of that, what we have seen, how many applications that he could access. So I told you one thing about profile. This is the most important tool in the hands of a Salesforce administrator. And whenever you wanted to, whenever you wanted to give or take, grant or what to say, grant or reduce the kind of functionality for a particular user, that time we make a use of profiles. Profiles are merely very important. I'm telling you that they are merely very important. We also, when I started taking this topic security, I told you that if you are creating a user inside Salesforce, the user must have given one license and a profile. When you are creating somebody as a sysadmin, a system admin, that time, if you would give him a standard system admin profile, that works. And actually that should be given. What I feel, when you are creating a user as a system administrator, you should in that case give him the standard profile, the standard system administrator profile. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This one, this one. So whenever there is a need, that let's say that somebody as a developer has joined the team, or somebody as a system administrator has joined the team. So he must also have all those privileges. He must also have all those functionalities enabled to him so that he could work just like you. So that is the time, when we give a user the system administrator profile. But apart from this, what I'm telling you is telling you from my own personal experiences. Apart from this, whenever for any another profile, or maybe like few more cases like chatter free user, I think there's no need to clone this profile. You can give them directly, right? So whenever, understand one thing, a user could be somebody who is having full access. A user could be someone who's having minimum access, maximum access, full access, moderate access, something like that. Whenever you think that this is a user and he should have the full access, like me, I'm talking about the scenarios when somebody joins as a new developer, somebody joins in the team as a new system administrator. That time you should give him like system admin profile. You know that somebody joins as a user who should have the access to the Salesforce chatter. You can give him this standard profile. You can give him the standard. Why? Because we know one thing, the one who's having, I think we do created one user with chatter free license, right? Reporter user. We cannot make a login unless I'll have the credits. And I think we do have it, right? Let me try to finish up this discussion. This is something which I feel you should know this. And I'm telling you one thing, guys. I have also taken the trainings long back, but nobody, nobody actually ever told this to us. They were they were very good people. I mean, I would always, in India, like we always make a respect to our teachers. But what was the deficiency in this training was like, they were not being able to taught us the scenarios on which you should have to use this, right? So the way I used to, the way, yeah, where is that password? I must have certain password for this. Oh, the training manager. I have kept one password. Oh my God. I just forgot what was the password. Somewhere around over here, I think this is the password. I think this is the password. All right, let me try and make a login with this. Didn't I copied this one? Oh, that's not the password. I think I forgot. I can reset the password anyways. I can do that, forget your password, and I'm going to get a link for this. But let's not do this. Let's not waste the time. I mean, I just wanted you to understand a small concept, but a big thing. Whenever the user itself is having a limited access, for example, this user, reporter, we have given him a charter free license, right? What he could access, if I will ask you what he could access, actually he can only access this thing. I'm not sure what is the password, but this he could only access the collaboration cloud feature called chatter, and he would not be able to access anything else apart from this. So this actually means this user is already having a limited access. Why should we reduce that to more? All right. So if this is your case, when the profile would grant limited access, then to that user, like this one, we can give him a standard profile, no problem. Because already with that profile, the kind of access is reduced, the kind of access is minimum. Or if there is a user who should have the full access, I mean, just vice versa to this, if there is a user who is going to have full access, all right, in that case, we can give him a standard profile called system administrator. Again, there is no need to give him a custom profile. So based on these two facts, I mean, you can consider these two as a two distinct point for this decision. If you wanted to take a decision that, and nobody would going to tell you like this, I'm telling you this, boys and girls, the way I'm telling you this, nobody would going, because this was something like, I have realized this. I learned this from my experiences. And this is what I'm telling you right now. And you understand, maybe when you know this, it would be like, you know this from day one itself. So you guys are really lucky to have this all knowledge, this all clarities, this all understanding from the day one itself. It is not the case with every time you should give a custom profile to somebody. No, try to make a think on this. Try to think what is the kind of this user. All right. Let's consider if somebody would tell me that, see, I wanted to create few of chatter users. Understand? If somebody would tell me that, Kasim, I wanted to create certain chatter users, and these are their email IDs. Maybe he has given me like, 5 email IDs. He wanted to create 5 chatter users. So what I'm going to do? Obviously, one thing, whenever I would be creating a user, I have to give him a license. I also have to allot him a profile. But I would ask this to myself. These are chatter users. Obviously, I'm going to give him a chatter free license along with the chatter profile, chatter free profile. And we know one thing, if you are a chatter user, you could only access the Salesforce collaboration cloud, the chatter feed, and you could not access any another functionality. That means your access is already limited, very limited rather. Then I can take, I can take this decision to give you the standard profile itself, because that profile already have limited access. So that was one endpoint of this line. Let's come to the second point. Now, same, somebody would ask me that, Kasim, I need to create a 5 system admin profiles. I have these 5 users. They have recently joined us as a Salesforce developer for this particular project. And I wanted you to create the users for them so that they could access. I'll show you. I can show you something. I can show you something for this. So whenever there's a person, whenever, you wanted to create a user account for him, and he must have full access. That time also, you are not going to give him any custom profile. Rather, what you will prefer? You would prefer a system admin profile for him. For all another cases, if a user is not going to have the restricted functionality, if a user is going to have a restricted functionalities, with the profiles, apart from these two things, whenever we would allot a profile to somebody, that time we would create a custom profile, and then we'll give this custom profile to him. Nobody would going to teach you guys, no one, because there is no underlying truth. There's no underlying proof for this. This is what I'm telling. I'm telling everything from you. I'm telling everything to you from my own experience. Even they would even not tell you that you should give the custom profiles. But we have seen, if you have given the standard profile to somebody, what happens? And what happens when you have given them a custom profile? So you have that clarity. So there are so many things, I've taught you because of my experiences, because of the kinds of issues what I have faced in my career. And I wanted that you should not get stuck in those kinds of situations. And that is the reason. And so many times I told you that this is something you should have to do it like this only. Right? Yesterday or day before yesterday, we talked about formula fields. I told you that if you would going to create a formula field, that is going to make the changes in all existing records. What is the solution for this? You should go with the business automations like process builder workflows. They are outdated now. I could only say the flows. You should have to create a process builder or maybe a flow for that. That would going to affect only that record. So there are so many things to get, I have talked like this. I have discussed you like this, and which are essentially important. The way this training, whatever has been written over here, is important. The way in that same way, those things are also very important. Chalo, let's now start with the profiles. Yesterday you have seen how could we make the restrictions on the applications what a user is going to be accessed. All right, just give me a moment. Let me extend the next class to 15 minutes more. And today's Saturday, I could start them from 8:30. Just give me a moment. 1 second. Okay, done. Did I send it to the wrong group? No. It's all right. It's okay. Chalo. Let's now show you something. Let me show you something more. So if I would make a login to the development user, now you can see, although he could access all of the standard object, right now he don't have any access related to the custom objects. I'm going to make that. I would be going to make that. But let me first of all show you something related to the tabs. All right. I can do one thing. I would go and customize the tab bar settings. And let me just remove case and leads from here for now. All right. I have removed lead and case. Now you can see with the tab bar, they are not over here. They are not over. Yeah, but definitely you will going to find it, right? And you can see there's a lead and there's a case, right? These are available into this list. I could definitely add and say when it's going to appear over here. But let me now show you something related to tab settings, right? So I would be going to the profile of this user once again, 208 standard user profile. I'll go and edit this. And now this is something called as a tab settings. As you can see, I would be making lead as default off. Understood? I would be making lead as, there are three. Whenever you go with the tab setting, there are three things: tab hidden, off, and on. Mostly there's like, you know what it means by on. It was going to available, obviously. But mostly there is a confusion, a small confusion between tab hidden and off. That is what I wanted you to realize, that what is the difference between, if I would make a tab hidden, I'll hide it. Or if I would make it an off. So what is the difference? So let's understand. So for the lead, I make the tab as default off. And for the case, I just have to find it out here over here. I make this as hidden. All right. Remember, for the case, I have settings, I change it to tab hidden. And for the leads, I have changed it to the default off. All right. Now let me try to save this. I'll go to that user once again. I'll make a login. I would be making a login. And now let me try to customize the tab bar for him. I'm trying to customize the tab bar to bring the case and lead. All right. Lead. I make that as tab default off. Okay, it's off, but it's available over here. That means if I wanted to add, I can add it and I can save this. I can find this over here. So tab off, I mean default off doesn't provide any level of securities. But what about the case? What about the case? Do you find case anywhere? Do you find case anywhere? Do you find case anywhere? No. Can you add case? No. Why? Tab hidden. This is what is a difference. So if I wanted, any tab should not actually available to any user. You don't have to make default off. No. If you make it off, it would, although would, as an impact, it would it would remove from here. If, for example, I'll make it off, and next time when I'll make a login, I would not see lead, and it was going to be get transferred to this list. This is what it means by default off. Okay. But if the user want, he can find it from here, he can add it and he can display this. All right. So default off would merely not do much kind of things. But when you make tab hidden, so user would not find it into the list. He cannot add it. It's not possible. That is what is the difference between default off and tab hidden. All right. So this user, I made this tab as hidden. Now let's come to the next thing called object. And see, this all has been written, if I'm not wrong with this. This all has been written in the notes. You would have to go with this. All right. Whatever. I mean, these all, see, default off and on. So it's actually has been written. I'm just trying to, relate it from my own way. But otherwise, things have been written. You can refer them. Now let me go to this profile once again, and I'm editing this. And this time I would go to a little bit scroll more, and I would cross this administrative permissions and general user permissions. Now I would go to the standard object and the custom object. Right now, if I would scroll it down, you can see the development user right now doesn't have any permission. I mean, any permission in any object permission related to him. So that's the reason, that was the reason we cannot see any name of the custom object over there. But let's now enable this. But whenever you are going in the object level permission, actually, this is something called as CRUT, create, read, and update and delete. CRUD permissions. This is something called as CRUD. So, or sometimes that's CRUD. Create, read, edit, and delete. It's one and same thing. We used to say as CRUD. We used to say as CRUD. It's one and same thing. Anyways, see, these are those permissions. So object level, I mean, you can see them in the standard object as well. So sometimes they ask this in the interview. Otherwise, this is a very basic thing everyone should know. An object level, there are actually 6 different sorts of permissions: read, create, edit, delete, view all and modify all. All right. Let's see all of them. What happens when you make this enable, this enable, this enable, and all that. And we have so many objects for this. Just excuse me for 5 minutes. I'll come back, and I will continue with this. Just give me 5 minutes. I'm pausing the recording and I'll come back in 5 minutes. Yes. So on the object level, we have 6 different forms of permissions: read, create, edit, delete, view all, and modify all. Let's see what happens in the visual if you enable something. And you would going to see there are certain, cascadings in this permission. That means if you enable something, some other permission would automatically get enabled. So that you're going to observe. So for the author, I just make a read permission. For books, I'll make read and create. For, let's say, books and author, I'll give him these 3 permissions: edit. For the candidate, delete. Now, as soon as I enable these things over here for the hiring manager and positions automatically get enabled. This is all because of the master detail relationship, by the way. So now for the hiring manager, I will give view all permissions. And for this, I would be giving modify all. As soon as selected modify all, rest other permissions automatically get enabled. All right. So this is what I have decided. Let me just take a quick screenshot of this so that we would remember what sort of permission we have given on the individual objects. And I paste it over here now. Now, once you did all this, just save this. Now let me go back to the development user and let me first of all add all those tabs. So I would be adding like author books, candidates. Previously, they were not over here. I mean, I don't I just forgot to mention this, but these names were not over here. And let me try to remove something from here. Now we have author, book author, and then candidate, position, and the hiring manager. I think we have all this. Let me now save this. Yeah. So let's understand. For the author, we just have given him a read permission. For the author, we just have given him a read permission. So I don't know whether author has any records or not. See, as you can see, it doesn't have, it have records, it have record. That's good. So see, how does this interface looks like to be? All right, we have, when in a general case, if you go with, for example, I'll have to make a logout for that. But anyways, understand, you have certain checkboxes over here. You have certain control buttons over here, but nothing, as you can see, it's plain blank. You just have to click. And when you make a click, you can only, even the control buttons, the action buttons over here, read, edit, they are not over here. So you can see just, this is what a read only permission. I cannot make any editing. I cannot make any changes. I cannot delete. I cannot edit. I cannot share. Nothing can be done onto this. You can just read. Why? Because to this object, we have given what kind of permission? Only read permission. Let's come to the next object, book. Now book have all this, book have, but there is a there's a button, new button, new book. You can create a new record. It was not there with this. It was not there with this. You see, there's no button over here because for the author, you don't have given him the create permission. And that's the reason no more, this user cannot create any record inside the author object. So there was no new button. But in the book, I can see that there is a read and create permission. So that's the reason you could create it. That's the reason you could create a new book record from here, right? You could create a new book record from here. And what the other permission? The other permission is read. So I can go and I can read this data. I can go and I can read. I can clone to create a new record, but I cannot edit and I can delete and I cannot share, write this, right? So this is what actually is a read and write. Now let's go to the book author. Here we have read as well as create as well as edit. So when I go with the book author, I can see new book author. I can create, I can have an action. You can see there's an action. I can edit. I can create, I can read, and I can edit. This is create, this is read, and there's an edit button as well. So if you want, you can edit this, right? If you want, you can edit this as well. So that is what is a read, create, and edit. Let's go to candidate, where we also have given a delete permission. So I'll go to the candidate. I'll go with all records, and these all are the records. Let me go with this record. Now, what the permission? Read. You can read this. What the permission? Create. If you want, you can clone, or maybe in the home page itself, we'll have new button to create a new candidate record. All right. What else? You can edit and you can delete. So you can even edit that, or if you want, you can delete that. So that's the reason you can see all these action buttons over here. For the hiring manager, you also have given view all, and for position, we have given everything. So when I go with the hiring manager, I can see all of them. I can see all of them, and I can do the same things, right? And when you have this modify all permission, so what else you have? What else you have? It won't look, I mean, it won't look any difference if you would see it like this. If you would see it like this, right? I mean, view all and modify all, they appears to be the same. They appears to be the same, right? They appears to be the same. But then I would be telling you what is the difference. What is the difference between view all and modify all? One second, just let me think of it. I recently have I did something related to this. I mean, I know, but I just wanted to add that practical example. Recently, there was a small thing. Yeah, I just forgot. One second, just give me a moment. I wanted to quote one practical example over here. I recently did something related to that. अरे यार क्या था वो? Hmm. Let me show you something. I mean, over here, you don't see any differences between view all and modify all. This is view all right? This is view all. This is view all, right? Now, what is mainly is a difference between modify all. People used to taught this as modify all. You can select and you can modify them. I'm going to show you that as well, but this does not means modifying all. See, if even though if I have selected all of the records, what I'm going to do? Do I have any button called edit? Do I have any button called delete? Selecting all does not means modify all. First of all, people used to taught it like this. I have seen so many videos. And what they used to say, see, what does it means by view all? View all is this is what you can see. You can see everything. And when you would be opening a record, you can see all those buttons and everything. But that eventually would also covers with edit and all that, right? So if you, for example, if you just wanted, what to say, if you just wanted to enable, everything, just go with view all. That would automatically enable all this. Apart from create, you have to exceptionally give this permission. But anyways, that is what is view all it is. For modify all, I have seen in so many videos, what they have taught, I mean, this is what the ability to select all records. The ability to select all records is called as modifier all. It's not that. Even though, tell me one thing, you don't realize, even though if I have selected all of them, what I'm going to do with this, from this onward, what I'm going to do? I have selected all record, all right. Do I have any button over here, modify all? No. Do I have any button over here called delete? No. I'm going to show you this can be done. We can even modify every records. How to do that? I'll be telling, but that's a separate topic. Just give me some time for this. I wanted you to understand what happens when you have not given modify all permissions. When you have not given modify all permissions, what happens? All right. What happens when you have not given or you have given modify all permissions? One second, guys. Now, let me record this. Let me record this. Because if I would not record it, probably you are going to forget this. The way I forgot. मतलब मैं तो खैर वो पता है मुझे, लेकिन मैं वो यूज केस भूल गया था. So I would be recording this. Ideally, I should not, because what I'm going to show is from actually is a real time. So you would have to maintain this secrecy. This is going to be a secret between you and me because I'm recording this. So I recently came to know about an issue. It was something related to approval process. I solved this maybe a month back. So there was one of the user, he was not having this permission, modify all. On his account, he was not having this permission related to that object. So let me just try to find it out. I mean, let me see whether I'm able to find that issue or not. Who reported this to me? I exactly don't remember who reported this to me. Let me try to meanwhile explain you. Actually, what happened is, like, there was one of the user. And see, I created an approval process. Let me show you. I created an approval process wherein, and I'll just show you that first of all. I have created few of the approval processes. Wherein what was happening is, like, EPGA. Let me see to this first of all. Yeah. So see, this approval process is on the price list object. All right. There's an object called as price list. There's an object called as price list. Price list. So what is, for example, if this is one of the price list record, try to understand this. Try to understand. You see. So if you would be submitting this record for approval, if you would be submitting this record for the approval, so yeah, this is a field, this is a field. The status changes to in approval or active or absolute or rejected, So in my approval process, and in the initial submission itself, you can see there is a field update action. There's a field update action. So whenever somebody would submit a record for approval, so I have designed a field update is going to be happen. Which field? This field, actually, status. And the status is becoming in approval in that case, the status to the approval. Now, what was happening? There was a user, when he was trying to submit a record. The record was although going for the approval. This record, for example, if this is that record he submitted, let's understand this. I mean, I'll have to dig so many things to get you into the exact issue, but let's try to understand. I think Muhammad Yarfa or somebody else, I don't remember. So this was one of the user. What was happening is, like, when he was submitting a record for the approval, so everything was happening in a proper, everything other than this, the changing of status. Other than this, everything was in a proper place, but the status was not actually was not changing. For example, if the previous value of status was, let's say it was draft, let's consider. So even after submitting it for the approval, it was drafted only. But it should not happen whenever, because I designed a process like this only. Whenever at the time of initial submission itself, the status should become like in approval, but that was not happening, particularly for that user. So somebody has reported this problem to me. And then when I have just asked one question, how many users are experiences this? How many users are experiencing this issue? How many of them? So he said to me that this is the only user for now, at least. I mean, maybe we could find somebody in the future as well. But right now, at least this is the only user who has reported this. All right. So I understand this. This is not the issue with the approval process. No, approval process, they are absolutely fine and they are working as per the plan. So this issue was nothing related to the approval process. This issue was nothing related to the approval process. Now, what happened is like, for that user, see, अभी वही कर रहे हो आप. जैसे you are making the changes for the development user, like you are making the changes for the development user. And let's say for the hiring manager object, there is no modify all permission. There's no modify all permission. So what would happen in that case? अब समझो, बहुत ध्यान समझो. User development. Let's say you are having an approval process in the same. You can replicate this in your end. आप बिल्कुल कर सकते हो. User development would go to hiring manager object. He would create a record. There he would create a record. Inside the hiring manager, he would create, or he can edit the record. Create or edit. Why? Because he's having this create permission and this edit permission. And after doing whatever he want to do, after that he submit that record for approval. Let's consider we are having an approval process in place. He submit a record for approval. The approval process is designed in a way that whenever somebody would submit a record, let's consider inside the hiring manager itself, there is a status field. और मैंने कहीं ना कहीं आपको ऐसा similar example लिया है, which is having all those options. What should happen ideally, whenever you submit a record for submit for approval, what should happen in that case? The status should become in approval, in progress, something like that. आपको मैंने example करवाया भी था. But this would not happen in the case of hiring manager. अरे क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? इसलिए नहीं हो रहा क्योंकि hiring manager पे modify all permission you have not given him. You have not given him the modify all. So any automation, now listen this very carefully. That is the reason I kept this recording on. Any automation which would modify certain fields of this object, hiring manager. Any automation which would modify certain fields for this object. If this development user would initiate that, is not going to work. It's not going to work. Why? Because this user does not have modify all permission. So if he would initiate any automation like approval process, especially, he cannot by his login, he would not be able to modify this particular field or any other field. Why? Because he is not having this. So how I diagnose this? When this problem comes to me, how I diagnose this? I first of all go to the approval process, obviously, because that is going to be your first impression that approval process is not working. I mean, that was the comment. Your approval process is not working properly. When we are trying to send in a record for the approval, it's not updating the field. All right. All right. I go to the approval process, but from my login, this is my login. And then I try to do some certain dry runs over here, and I found it's working. It was working. I go with another login. I go with a person called as Goim. That's also a system admin. He's also a system admin. I just make a login with his, right? I tested from his login. Even in that, it was working good. Then I finally asked, what is the name of that user? So I make a login with that user, and then I realize that this is not anything related to the approval process. It's something related to his profile. I go to that object, and then I find for his profile, particularly for this object, modify all permission was not given to him. That was the reason. So I checked it, and once again I tested. It was all happening. It was all happening. So this is what does modify all actually used to do. This is one point. This is one point. All right. Let me come to the another one. Let me come to the another one. I have only 7 minutes. Let me see whether I can teach you this or not. Take care. So I'm having this candidate records. If I go with all candidates, you can select all of them. But even after selecting, what you are going to do, tell me. Can you edit? If you would edit this, if you would click this, only that particular record is going to be get edited. There is one question. I don't know whether they would even ask you this or not. But if I would take your interview, I'm going to definitely add this. Ask this. Very less people know that in Salesforce, you can edit, you can perform mass edit as well. You can perform bulk edit as well. Very less amount of, there would be very less people who know this. All right. I would not come, I will not complete, I would not, nahi, kya bolna chahiye mujhko? I probably would not going to complete this by today, but at least let me start this discussion. Very less people know that, yes, this could happen without using any tool. This could obviously happen if you would try data loaders, if you would try bash programs, if you try data import, export wizards, or you can simply do this with the Salesforce inspector as well. यार मैं तो आजकल यही use करता हूँ. Whenever I wanted to have this, I go with this data import, and I create a file, one Excel file. I just paste it out over here. I think, no, this is going to be an upcoming topic after this. Yeah, you are going to learn this. You are going to learn this. Don't worry. After this, after this profiles, I would show you few more things. And from this batch, you are the one only to them. I would be showing you like how you can introduce mass update action on objects, right? You would be the one, and the people who would going to join this after yours, previous to your, nobody knows this. I don't know why, but बहुत सारी चीजें मैं खुद भी भूल जाता हूँ. So that could be the reason why I have not taught this. But you would going to learn this, right? I'm going to complete this. So there would be a few more topics what I'm going to do. And then after that, I'm going to teach you something called data management. So in data management, you're going to learn how to perform this mass updates and all right? And there would obviously be a limitation with this. But I'm going to show you one technique by which you can perform multiple records, few of the fields of multiple records to be get updated. I would be showing you that. So that time you would going to understand what is the purpose of this checkbox. What is going to be the purpose of this checkbox? So this comes when you have view all. This checkbox comes when you have view all. All right. But it has had nothing to relate it with modify all. That's completely a different concept. So I would be showing you this probably tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, but I would complete this profile and then we're going to see this, because now I have written, I obviously not going to forget it, right? Chalo. That's all for today, guys. That's all for today. Let me give you this command if you wanted to unmute yourself. Yeah. Go ahead if you wanted to ask any questions. Yes. Go ahead, please. Yes, any questions? Yes, any questions? Nothing to ask. Wow. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great weekend.